This is Brian Bolton, and this is my video for the case study Internet Use Violation Threats Over the World Wide Web. So what do we know? Roosevelt High School is in an affluent area where many of the parents are professionals, doctors and lawyers. I think that's important because if we don't deal with this correctly, it's quite likely that somebody in the community will know. That the students have the access to the newest technology. Dr. Forbes has been principal for 9 years. He's established, respected, was recognized by the State Principals Association, and is focused on the school's reputation that he hires only highly qualified applicants. Ms. Walker has 2 years of experience. She was hired as a master's plus 15 teacher. She's in the beginning of her second year. She has a structured class. That there have been other calls of complaining about her class. We don't know whether those calls have come from numerous people or whether it's been a small number of people calling several times. Dr. Forbes has talked to her about techniques to reduce stress on the students and have more positive interactions. We don't know whether other staff have. The parents and students have complained about the workload and the quality of instruction in her class. We know that 2 months into the 2005-06 school year, she was forwarded an email linked to a website, that the website contained suggestive comments about her personal behaviors and critical comments about her class, including vulgarities, and that the final comment was, "Who wants Miss Walker to disappear?" We know that Miss Walker called Dr. Forbes. We know that she stated, "They threatened to kill me and I may not be safe in my apartment." That she forwarded the email to Dr. Forbes. That his first comment was that, "I sincerely believe the email in the webpage was a prank." That Miss Walker accused a specific student, and that Dr. Forbes printed the website and the email and said that he would talk to the district technology coordinator in the morning. So what do we need to know? First, does the district have a specific protocol for this situation? Can we find out who sent the email, who created the website, when it was created, who contributed comments to the website, and do the personal comments legally constitute libel? Does the website contain any other threats than the quote that she gave the principal? And have there been any other threat situations in the school? At this point, I would like to separate these two issues into separate issues. I don't believe that whether or not she is a good teacher has any bearing on this situation. A threat was made. Threats are never appropriate. We may later have to talk to Miss Walker about her class. We may have to talk about the stress that the students are under. But for now, our number one concern is making sure that the safety of the students and staff is protected. We can talk about the other issue later if we determine in our investigation that it's warranted. So what is the problem? A teacher feels threatened. Also, an administrator made an uninformed and dismissive comment about the threat. It seems that the school does have an inadequate mentoring program for teachers, and it seems as though there is no effective protocol or chain of command for dealing with parent concerns. It mentions that the principal himself had spoken to parents about this teacher. In any building I've been in, that conversation would not take place not in the presence of the teacher. It may be that the stress in her classroom and that the mindset of the parents that those are issues that we'll have to deal with in the future. But at this point, my only concern is the safety of the people in the building. And I don't want to give this threat weight that it doesn't deserve by looking into the classroom practices of the teacher before I'm able to determine whether or not they actually did have a bearing on the threat. So what are we going to do? First of all, we're going to collect the documentation, talk to the district legal representative, contact tech support. We're going to ask for an outside person to deal with the problem because I believe that Dr. Forbes's initial dismissive, I think it's a prank comment, could call into question whether he is impartial. We want the teacher to have complete confidence that this has been done with all due concern for her safety and she may have some doubts about whether or not he really is concerned for her safety after that comment. Also, we're going to interview all of the involved parties and then determine the appropriate consequences. Also, I believe that we will develop a community comment policy so that these kind of things that bubbled up onto a website have an appropriate valve to be communicated. And that finally we will communicate the findings. So we'll collect the documentation. We've got copies of the website in the email. I think in case there are possible legal consequences down the road, we should also get affidavits of the phone call. We should get documentation of any other previous contact the parents have had, whether there have been student referrals from her class, and we should also get records of any other threats that have taken place in the school. So then we contact the district legal representative and we find out, do the personal comments legally constitute libel? Does the website contain any other actual threats? And can the website be blocked or filtered, at least within the district, on the district network? We do want to be aware and be concerned about the students' First Amendment rights. I believe that right now, the presence of the website, at least until we can determine whether there is an actual threat, is enough of a disruption in the educational process that it can be blocked or filtered in the district network, at least until we do determine whether it is an actual threat. We should also ask the lawyer if Randy Frank should be interviewed, or whether there are some legal issues that we may want to leave open by not talking him ourselves right away, and should other authorities be involved. Again, if it is a real threat, we don't want to spoil evidence by running through it too quickly. We'll talk to the technology office to find out if we can find out who did the website, where it came from, how long it's been up there. Maybe it's from her first semester of teaching and somebody just discovered it. Can we find out how much traffic there is? Maybe the person who created the website and the principal and Miss Walker are the only three that have ever looked at it. Can the origin of the email be traced? And also, is it possible to filter just this website in the district network? Again, we should ask for an outside mediator because Dr. Forbes' reputation shouldn't be a consideration in this. Our concern is the safety of the people in the building. His dismissive comment was uninformed and poorly timed, and that the investigation may point to previous complaints that were poorly handled, and it sounds as though he was involved in some of those complaints. So we want to remove him from the process as quickly as we can. We want to interview Dr. Forbes, Miss Walker, Randy Franks if we can, any other students that are identified in that interview process, any parents that are identified, and any other staff, anybody else that's identified in the process of interviewing people. As far as consequences, if it's determined that the website constituted a threat and it involves students, that those students should face the consequences that are in the student handbook. This should be a minor or major that's already clearly identified. It's just a matter of applying whatever consequences are already spelled out in the handbook. There should be a building-wide continuing ed opportunity so that teachers can understand how to de-escalate stress situations in the classroom. There should also be a policy for receiving and managing parent complaints. If a parent is unhappy, there's nothing more discouraging than calling the school and realizing they don't even know how to deal with your complaint. They want to see that the school is professional and has a protocol in place for dealing with parent concerns. Also, students should receive information about cyberbullying and dealing with stress, and realizing that this website was not an appropriate venue for voicing these concerns. So when we communicate the findings, we want to let everybody know that the safety and the staff is priority number one, that there should be proper avenues for communicating concerns, and that these should be available all over the district so that everybody will know about them. The staff have been trained in classroom management techniques and identification of threats to protect the students, and that the students have been trained to identify cyber bullies and involve the proper authorities, whoever they may be. I believe that this promotes the success of all students because a threat was made against the school and every effort was made to end it. That his initial reaction was misguided, and then other professionals were involved. That this is a highly competitive environment and students were given information on identifying ways to deal with that stress. In addressing Miss Walker, I was thinking that she was highly trained and well educated. I was feeling that she seems insecure, and I was valuing her role as a potential future leader in the district. In addressing Dr. Forbes, I was thinking that he is well regarded and probably has a lot of support in the community. I was feeling that his initial response was guarded and maybe meant to protect the institution. I was also valuing his role as an opinion leader in the district. Thinking about the threat, I knew very little initially and wasn't really able to determine if it was a serious threat. I was feeling the presence of other highly trained professionals in the community left little margin for me to make wrong choices early on. And I was also, of course, valuing the safety of all community members. There are unresolved issues. Is she a good teacher? Maybe we'll have to talk about that. Is there more that can be done to keep all of the students and staff safe? The building administrator demonstrated a sense of integrity by gathering all of the information involving qualified professionals and addressing the shortcomings of his role as a part of the overall solution. He acted with fairness by considering the needs of the perpetrators, the victim, and the wider community in addressing the steps and addressing the larger system-wide factors that influence the behaviors of all parties. That's the incredible stress in the district. The building administrator demonstrated personal and professional code of ethics by adhering to pertinent district policies and providing personal growth opportunities for himself and all other interested parties. I'm sorry, actually, this is the fourth time I've tried to record this, and I ran out of time the first three, so it seems I actually went a little bit too fast this time. I just want to make the point again that my number one concern as an administrator is the safety of the students. Then my next concern is the confidence of the people in the district that this situation has been handled professionally. I want them to understand that there is a process for complaining about students or complaining about teachers, that there is a process for dealing with complaints about teachers, that none of this is off the cuff, that all of this is stuff that we've thought about ahead of time, and that we've involved the appropriate outside officials or other authorities whenever necessary. I think nothing hurts the confidence of students and the wider community more than the feeling that the people in charge don't know what they're doing. Having a clear policy for dealing with these things, having an established protocol for talking to people that are unhappy, they help create confidence that these situations can be dealt with. We may have to talk to Miss Walker eventually about the situation specifically in her classroom, but the fact that we let it get to the point where a threat was made is a sign that there are some other underlying problems in our process for identifying weaknesses in the classroom, and that process needs to be fixed before we start individually focusing in on the problems that are taking place in Miss Walker's classroom.